What a question. He came out with it bold as brass. So how do you feel about sex, Miss Kenning? And I'd only gone about me insomnia. I don't know, I said. I've never been in that situation. I don't seem to have the knack with men. I would have liked to, but it's too late now. The doctor said, no, it isn't, Miss Kenning. You're 40, not 90. When I got home, I got to thinking, there is Eric. He's on his own, and we have quite nice chats when we meet at the vets. I have to take my dog Robbie to have his glands squeezed, and he takes his budgie Joey for calcium treatment because it hasn't got any feathers. I wrote this magazine with an article in it called How to Seduce Your Man. I gave myself a date 2 weeks in advance and dropped him the invitation. I didn't want him to think I were desperate. First stop, the perfume counter at John Lewis and a bottle of Ange Tom, which the girls told me meant fallen angels. Next stop, Topshop for a low-cut dress. They were a bit big in the bust, but the assistant told me to pad it out with a bit of tissue. I looked quite vampish in it with me Night of Flame lipstick and the frosted violet eyeshadow, even if I do say so myself. Eric sent me a letter by return saying thank you, and that would be nice, but no carrots. He explained that he was allergic to carrots, and they gave him hives. I began to wish I hadn't left it so long before our meal, as I got into a real state about what to cook. My mother told me that English and simple is best. Saturday the 16th came, and at 7 o'clock sharp, Eric knocked on the door with a bag of hyacinth bulbs, saying they'd last longer than cut flowers. I went to help him out of his coat, but he'd dropped his bicycle clips and padlock key. As I bent to help him pick them up, I got my French pleat caught on his button. He got all panicky and claustrophobic. I said, oh, wait, Eric, but he jumped back and pulled out a great chunk of my hair. He was that horrified and suggested that he ought to go home. But I just brushed the tears away so as not to smudge my extra lash mascara. I said, no, you sit down, I'll get you a drink. I thought I'd memorised all the ways to seduce your man from Neapolitan magazine, and I skipped a few points in case he got bored. Once I got his drink, I knelt at his feet and took off one of his shoes, saying I'd trained in foot massage. A little white lie, I'm afraid. He was ever so upset and he kept trying to force his foot back in his shoe. So I took the other one off. I know it's awful, but I had to giggle. He had a great big hole in his sock. Oh, I said, you need someone to look after you, Eric. Eric jumped up and said he'd forgotten to feed his budgie. I managed to persuade him to stay, though, because I told him I'd made steak and kidney pie. He said it was all right, and that he'd stay if he could put his shoes back on. We ate by candlelight, but Eric was ever so quiet, and he didn't seem to get my jokes. Then I remembered the Spanish champagne I bought on sale from Asda. That did it. My nerves were already in shreds, and after one glass I nearly had hysterics. I cleared the table and calmed down in the kitchen, only to discover that I hadn't taken the Arctic roll out the freezer. I put it on defrost in the microwave while I read stage 10 on the list, and I realised I was everything back in the wrong order. I should have done bend at the waist to show cleavage when serving dessert before foot massage. I rescued the Arctic roll, just. It was leaking a bit at the ends onto doily. I minced towards him in my heels, leaning forward and doing the bendy bit, and wondered why he was staring at my chest in a most peculiar way. I was mortified when I looked down to see a big lump of pink loo roll. I tried discreetly to tuck it back in, but it made me look deformed. Oh, what the hell, I said, and I pulled it all out and laid it on the table. Eric went very red and stood up. I thought he were going to leave, so I walked to the settee, took a deep breath, ripped my dress off, laid down and closed my eyes. I waited for what seemed like an eternity, and I said, it's all right, Eric, you can have your way with me now. I don't mind. I couldn't stand not knowing where he was in the room, so I opened one eye to see the door closed. I don't go to the vets in the village anymore. Robbie doesn't like the new one, but I can't risk seeing Eric ever again. I've changed my doctor as well and don't know what he's talking about.